Between school, your friends, and social media, answers are everywhere. But where can you find the truth? Welcome to the StudentCast. We're asking for a friend so that you don't have to.
Hey guys, welcome to the StudentCast. My name is Ka'eo, and I'm here with my friend Brynn.
What's up, party people? We are back at the StudentCast asking questions for a friend so you don't have to.
Exactly. And I don't know about you, it's about to be summer, but it is freezing in this room, hence why me and Brynn are wearing our little bit of winter weather attire here.
I'm always cold, like always.
Yeah. I don't know how to fix that for you, but
I guess not in summer heat of Fresno
that's
outdoors.
True. Yeah.
But what's nice about summer is students are on vacation. We have a little bit more flexible schedules. Go to the lake.
Yes.
You can do little pool parties.
Yeah, those
hang
are
with
fun.
the friends.
A little bit of beach volleyball. Come on now, let's go. It's a great time.
Ka'eo and I spend too much time together. Apparently,
we do. We work a lot, and but the biggest thing that I think, I'll just be confession, guys, is in the summer I'm a little bit like, oh, did I work out enough for me to like wear this tank top? You know, or like, I know I have abs, but I just don't know if they're gonna show their way here this summer. You know, they're not there on their debut, so I get a little bit more just like insecure, which I don't really like saying, but like I do just a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I think the environments that we're in over summer can bring out a lot of different like negative body image struggles. I mean, those can be present all the time,
honestly.
But a lot of our friends have been asking that question, especially with summer approaching, of like, hey, I want to be able to enter into these environments and not be consumed by thinking about what I look like. And so today we're asking our questions for our friend of how do we find freedom from negative body image?
Yeah, because sometimes we get stuck there. And I don't know, it sounds like from our friends too, it's like it removes us from being able to participate sometimes because our insecurity stops us from entering in. Yeah. And so it's like, hey, how do we actually experience freedom from that so that way we can recognize that we're not defined by that, but to have a healthier view of ourselves.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. And what I'm excited about is we're going to be talking a lot today about the beginning of finding freedom from negative body image. It's not found in changing your body, but changing your perspective. And so we're really excited just to enter into that conversation today with you all.
I think it'll be a good time. So obviously, first and foremost, Brynn, we probably need to talk about, in order to find some of our worth or like to reestablish and restore some of our healthy views of our body, we have to know who actually created our body in the first place. Because as much as I like to think I'm the one that built myself, I didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that this is like a illustration that I'm not a carpenter. Okay. I'm going to preface with that. But for some reason, there's this like picture in my brain of like, okay, if I were a carpenter and I put together this table that we're sitting at, I put together. Okay. I did not.
Wow. Great job.
But I would be the one that would like buy all the supplies. I would put all the time in to like draw blueprints and be like, how do all these things fit together to make sure it would be stable, I'm assuming. Go through like a lot of different steps and put in a lot of hours and labor to make sure that the table was all together. Yeah. And then we go through staining it, all these things.
Sure
Maybe I am a carpenter.
You sure you're not a carpenter? Wow.
But at the end of that process, say I was selling this table, I would get to look at it as the person who knew the value of the supplies that were put into it, knew how many hours were put into it, like how it looks, the quality of everything, all those things. And I would get to set a price for it. And none of us would like blink twice at that. We'd be like, yeah, you created it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You get to define how much it's worth.
Yeah.
And so often we would be like, yeah, we agree with that like process and with that idea that someone who creates something gets to define how much it's worth. But when we look at ourselves, we don't apply that same idea.
Dang,
and so we didn't create ourselves, to your point. Yeah. We did not just like stop. I don't know. Like,
yeah, we didn't. And as much as like you think you did not. Yeah.
No. The Lord created us. And so again, starting with that idea, if we believe that, practice or the idea that a creator gets to define its creation, then we get to apply that to ourselves too. And so we have to, again, start with who is our creator. Yeah. And so, where do we find that?
Yeah. So that takes us back to Genesis. So at the beginning, that's where we kind of get it in Genesis. Honestly, the first 3 chapters. But yeah, it says man created man. LOL. That's just my flesh talking, obviously. But the scripture says literally that God formed man in his own image, first and foremost. And then it goes on in the chapters and it actually talks about how God with his hands formed us and then breathed life into us.
Yeah, in Genesis 1:27 specifically, it says how we're created in his image. And one thing that's really cool throughout the creation account is that the Lord, anything he creates in those 7 days, he's like, it was good.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good.
Yeah.
But
Heavens, birds, all that.
Yeah.
Trees.
For us, for his people, when he creates us, he says that they were very good.
Oh, come
and
on
so
now.
there's from the beginning this distinguishment of like the Lord sees us differently than the rest of the things that he created. And so he looks at us and says we're very good and that we're created in his image, and that like there's a theological term of imago Dei, saying that we are made in God's image, which is applied uniquely to us as humanity. And so when we look at that, we already see like, okay, God looks at us in a different, unique way than the rest of creation. And then we get to see like we're made in his image. And so who is God?
Yeah. Wow. I'm just like stuck on the fact, just really quickly, that if God looks at us and says, wow, you're very good. I don't know if I have ever told myself, wow, I'm very good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, listeners out there, I don't know, think about when was the last time you looked at yourself and there was like, yeah, I'm very good. In like a very like humble way though, not like some confident, arrogant way.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? And so, but the fact that our creator says that, that's incredible. Okay, yeah. So then that goes into, we get to learn a little bit more about how, that we're created and who God is, right? And so we're asking now the question, in order for to get that identity, we now have to know what specifically?
We have to see how our creator defines us.
Got it. Okay.
And so
perfect.
I think when we're thinking about that, I think it's easy to make that kind of this like worldly thing where we're saying like, I'm going to look at myself and be like, here's who I am. Here's all these things about myself that I love or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, we're looking at who God, our creator, defines us as. And so this is like, I don't know, there's no way to explain this without coming back to the gospel and saying like, God, our creator, defined us as worthy of him sending his son down to die for us, rise again, so that we could have a relationship with him. And so when we're wondering like what our worth and our value is, it's not in like how strong, how tall, how skinny, how et cetera, any of those things. Like those aren't what define our value. We already have a defined, like a set in stone value that the Lord has displayed. And so I don't know, that just brings me so much peace when we're like looking into situations and being like, okay, I'm not this, I'm not that. It's not replacing those with like, I am pretty enough or like, I am whatever. But being like, oh wait, no, Lord, like you've already defined my worth in this.
Yeah. It's, so what I hear you saying is essentially that like, the price was paid already, which means that we already had worth, because in order for something to be paid for, we already had to have some kind of price.
Yeah.
And so then that's what Jesus did for us. And then God sent Jesus there because he was like, these people are too valuable.
Yeah.
I want them back in relationship with me.
And like thinking about the weight of that when we're talking down on our bodies, or like when we're looking at the Lord's creation and saying like, picking apart things about ourselves of like, these aren't good, all whatever.
Yeah.
What we're inherently saying is like, God, like you messed up.
Yeah. You made a mistake.
Like, and just like if I spent all this time, let's come back to the table. If I spent all this time on this table, hours and whatever, and Ka'eo walked in and was like, that table is ugly. Like I would be like, what?
Yeah. What do you mean?
But I created this. I spent so much time on it and whatever. The Lord created us. And so when we speak down to ourselves, a lot of times we don't like equate that with that we're sinning against God, because we're like, but this is only affecting me. Like this isn't hurting someone else. This is just like how I talk to myself.
Yeah.
But our bodies aren't our own. So like we're talking down on something that the Lord created and like gave us to inhabit on this earth.
Yeah. No, I really love the way you say that. I also, because I think sometimes we forget, maybe sometimes it's like not, it's just easier said for ourselves, but we do this actually on other people too. We're like, if like, kind of you said, we're like, and scripture says that we're made in God's image. That means everyone, all of humanity is very good and made in God's image. And so when we tear down others, but also ourselves, we're essentially both saying like, God, like you made a mistake, and we can't do that to other people or even ourselves because we're not the ones that created it.
Yeah. It's good.
So I don't know, like it's a good thing to think about too, because sometimes we catch ourselves, maybe we're kinder to other people, but we still do that to us.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Absolutely. And I think like tangibly, I don't know, that idea doesn't remove the fact that there's going to be things that we see and are like, I'm insecure about this, or like, I don't know, I'll be like, for me, very consistently, there's like this idea of, okay, if I was skinnier, I'd be chosen or I'd be loved. Or for you, that might be like, if I was taller, I would be more worthy.
Very much taller.
If I was,
Thank you.
If I was like stronger, people would see me as more like respectable. I don't know. Like there can be so many ways that this can go. And so I think like what we're saying here isn't that, oh, you just need to like not think about that. Like just that's going to go away. But it is about what are some like things that you can be actively doing with recognizing like who your creator is, what he's defined as your value. How can we embrace that and like live out and gradually continue to see our bodies as a gift that the Lord's given us?
Yeah, I think that's from what you're saying is it really it has to be a change of our perspective. Like bottom line, what we're trying to get at is we have to figure out where our eyes are going.
Yeah.
Because if our eyes are on other people or on other like creations, or it's only focused on us, and then that's the only way we figure out what worth is, right?
Yeah.
Or what the value looks like.
Totally.
And what you're arguing and what you're saying, and I think it's actually right, it's the right way, is to be like, hey, our perspective needs to go back to the Lord.
Yeah. So when we have our eyes fixed on the Lord versus other people, or like to your point, like even just on the mirror, like there can be on anything. Shifting that from putting our eyes on the Lord and who he is going to be the only thing that can shift how we view our bodies. And so tangible things that's looked like in my own life. It sounds like kind of silly, but like this isn't going to be a thing like overnight. Like I'm never going to think about my body negatively ever again.
Yeah. Let me know if you're there, because I'm currently not.
That would be really cool. But I think something that a mentor told me was like, why don't we try for one day to just not fixate on what you look like. And like just not allow your mind to go there. The goal being 24 hours. But if you don't reach 24 hours, instead of being like, I failed at that, celebrating like, I didn't think about that for an hour.
That's cool.
Like, does that make sense?
Yeah. Like we're looking for small wins here. Because like if you're constantly like, that's like your thing, which on a bad day, it's like every window, car window, mirror, glass, honestly, my phone.
Yeah.
Like everything can be a reminder of like how I feel like I'm not up to par. I'm not made perfect. And so that just kind of negatively spirals me. So for like, if I can just make it 1 hour, I'm not like readjusting my shirt or like whatever, and be like, I'm just going to be confident in the skin that God's given me. Then that's like, we should celebrate that win because it makes it easier each time. Right.
Yeah. I was thinking about while you were talking, I was in San Diego with some friends and we all walked by one of those like buildings that's just like, it's a window for them, but it's just a reflection for the people on the outside of it. And we like all were walking by and just all three of us were like looking at ourselves in the thing. And then we all were like, oh, we all just saw that we all just did that. But even like kind of to preface with some of the other things we're going to say, it's really easy to feel like you're the only one who's not like the only one who's struggling with how you view yourself. But this is such a human nature
I think so.
problem. But that was a side tangent. I don't know. Another little like tangible thing that my encouragement would be is removing things like that that stand in the way from you being able to like have freedom in this. And so there's that passage that's like, if your right arm is causing you to sin, like cut off your right hand. And we so often are like, like I always compare myself on social media. Like for me, I went through a season where TikTok was like, I was always seeing people's posts of like, here's what I eat in a day, here's my 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. workout routine before my like 8 to 5 day.
Which is wild to me.
Yeah, totally. But I would see those things and it was like running rampant in my mind of like, I need to like eat like these people. I need to work out like these people. I don't look like this. My style is not this, whatever. And I like came to a point where I was like, wait, I'm like actively going onto something and scrolling every day and allowing something to be like a foothold in my mind of like viewing myself negatively. And so I'm like 23 years old and I'm like, I gotta delete TikTok because like this isn't good for me. But I think a question I would have for people is like, what are you allowing to stand in the way from you being able to shift your perspective and your eyes onto Jesus? Because nothing is worth like standing in the way of us and viewing how he created us to be.
No, and like I don't even think that's how the Lord designed it for us, right? Like we even go back to the garden when sin entered. That's when they all of a sudden Adam and Eve cover themselves. As the first time shame existed. And then God even says like, how did you know that you guys were naked? Like, why did you guys even do that? And then that's like in that moment, that's what humanity is still dealing with, right? Of this whole thing of like, we are now sometimes even attached to shame, right? For body image, there's shame involved. And that really impacts our identity. So I love what you're saying is like, look, if going to this is constantly going to keep you in that shame cycle, let's just cut it out.
Yeah.
There is no freedom in running back to that, you know? And so even though you think like, oh, it's inspiring or it might be a healthy version, I don't know. I get stuck on the whole like meal prep stuff. I'm like, oh, I need to make meal prep. I can't keep eating canes, you know, like, and then I'm like, wait, like then I almost get hyper focused and then I almost feel like I'm not living anymore the way God wanted us to live, which is in freedom. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's important to think about your why, because it's not bad. Like our bodies are a gift and we're called to honor them. And so
that's true. I probably shouldn't eat canes all the time.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Should throw a broccoli in there every now and then.
Oh, that's what I was saying. But I think like there is a value to like fueling our bodies in a way that honors them and like fuels them. Like working out, moving our bodies the way that God created us to do that. But our why, if our why is so that I achieve this bar so that I'm chosen or I'm loved or I'm seen or any of those things, like we're never going to be able to accomplish that with like this control aspect of how we eat or how we work out. But when we shift again, our why to being like, Lord, this body's a gift and I want to honor it because I want to honor you. It's different.
Yeah. What I hear you saying is if our why is because we want other people's approval, then we're going to live and die by their approval. I think, I don't remember, maybe it was Jordan Hogue, but someone said it where it just was so like, he said it very interesting when he says like, if we live for man's approval, we will, or strive for man's approval, we will live and die by 1,000 paper cuts. Oh. Because it's like, it's not something that like we realize is happening, but over time, we're going to realize that it causes so much pain and to the point that we're like, wow, I have so many cuts.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but like paper cuts, it's like they look small, but they hurt really bad.
Yeah.
And you're saying like, no, we were designed not for other people, like looking for other people's approval and acceptance and stuff, but we should get it from the Lord first and foremost.
Yeah. It's so good. Yeah. That quote is a bar.
Well, I keep it because for me, I like often, especially like my wife's like a CrossFit coach. We go to the gym pretty often. And so oftentimes I'm like, wow, like I'm not as strong as my wife or I'm not as strong as other people in the gym, nor do I look like other people in the gym. And on a bad day, I'm like, oh, I need to like lift heavier so I can get the approval of other people instead of being like, God didn't design this whole thing of exercise for us or whatever. So that way other people in the gym are like, whoa, go Ka'eo, like whatever. Yeah. He designed it for us to be in a healthy like place, right? To honor our bodies to some extent. So
it's so good. That's good. Do you have any changeables that you've thought of?
Well, yeah. So I think, for me, it was that quote, remembering that quote that Jordan, I'm pretty sure it was Jordan, but remembering that quote about how if we seek for man's approval, then we die for 1,000 paper cuts. So I go back to that verse where it says that we should be seeking, we do all things, right, to honor the Lord and not man. And then the other thing for me too that I kind of get to is I actually start affirming the things I am good at. Like I'm kind of in this process where like, especially recently right now, especially heading winter into summer, but sometimes I get mad that I don't lift more weight instead of being thankful for the amount that my body can lift. Like comparison, I always think the solution for comparison is actually gratitude. So like to celebrate and be thankful for things that I can do helps me remove comparison and looking for other people. So that's kind of what I do. Like, wow, today I can run, I can move. Like I should never take that for granted, you know? Or like I'm grateful for the fact that my body can sustain the weight that I have on me, right? And then also like I'm more complex than just how my body looks. Like God designed, if we're made in God's image, he is a complex being and therefore we are complex. And so I'm more than just what my body looks like. And guys, on a bad day, it doesn't work, but on a good day, it's just reminding myself of those things. So.
Absolutely. What's so interesting, like same practice, but that idea of like praising the Lord, even for the things that you are insecure in. And so if there's something that you're insecure about where it's like, oh my gosh, like I hate my legs right now. And then it's like, okay, find one thing about what your legs do for you to praise the Lord for, where it's like, Lord, you give me these legs and I got to go on a walk with a friend this morning.
Exactly.
Like, and it sounds cheesy, but like genuinely sitting in that and being like, okay, these things that, again, I'm talking down on what the Lord's created, and finding a way to like praise him in that. But very similar of like, what can these things do? Can be super helpful.
For me, just not to be like dramatic, just like a sober experience was for me when one of my buddies was like, yeah, he got into an accident and he kind of is paralyzed. And I remember complaining to him, just normally complaining to him about how like I just like wish I was taller, wish I could move more weight, wish I looked skinny or whatever. And he goes, well, just praise the Lord that you can move. And then that's when it hit me being like, wow, like I actually never appreciated that. So I'm just to add on to the point that we're talking about.
That's good.
So,
well, I think my last thing is like, I don't know. I feel like it'd be amiss if like genuinely when I was like thinking about recording this episode, like I felt a weight in the sense of like, I've succumbed to like the social pressures around this topic so frequently where I'm like, I'm not this, I'm not that. And then my heart was like breaking for our students who are processing this where I'm like, oh my gosh, like my heart grieves the fact that our students and we are living in a world that like promotes this like one version of beauty or whatever that we kind of like compare to. And so I don't know, just for the moments that students are like standing in a mirror being like, I don't want to go to this thing because I don't like the outfit that I like thought was going to work and I put it on and now I don't feel like I look good, or like showed up in a room and we're like looking around and comparing themselves to other people. I don't know, like my heart breaks for us and for our people. And I think just one thing that I want to like encourage all of us in is like the Lord sees you in that. He's not like distant from you in that. A lot of times body image feels like this like weird thing that we don't like name, I guess. Like it feels embarrassing or shameful to name. But he sees you in that and he wants to like walk with you in that. And I think we can like make a change in that too with how we talk about body image with our friends, like naming those things out loud. Even in the way that we affirm people, like when your friend walks in a room, like what if you affirmed them for something you see the Lord doing in their life or something about their character or their heart before you were like, dang, like those jeans look good on you, or like those kind of things. Like I would love to see a culture in our students where we are looking at people's hearts before we're looking at their like outward appearance and kind of like shifting that from there.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally what God says. Or in the Old Testament, God's like, I care more about the heart than, and man looks at the appearance. Yeah. And so in that way, we get to be like God and get to see some of his kingdom here on earth. And so, my encouragement for you is it might be hard. I don't know. Oftentimes we think body image is for a specific type of group of people. Men experience this probably a lot more than they think. They just think about how long and how often you go to the gym and why you're going. And the sense of inadequacy that we should be stronger or strong, and because that's how we're wired and designed. Therefore, we feel very insufficient if you're not. And so that's another form of body image, a negative perspective of body image. And so my encouragement for you is actually to be very honest about it, being like, I actually am in this comparison cycle and I don't ever feel like I've achieved. And so you just got to name that first and foremost. And then secondly, I think it would be nice if it was more like this was an actual accepted conversation to be with your friends.
Totally.
And be like, hey, I think I'm actually struggling with my self-image a little bit, or my body image. You know, like, can you remind me of the things I've forgotten? Yeah. Because I feel like my only worth is in how much I can lift or whatever. I'm speaking from my perspective, obviously. Yeah. But I think that'd be nice. It'd be actually a little refreshing. Yeah. So
one of my favorite moments in ministry ever was at fall retreat this past fall with our high school students. And I did a breakout session on body image. And everyone asked everyone to just write down. They didn't know they were gonna have to share them with someone. Sorry, everyone. But I was like, just pull out your phone. And it was like very beginning. It was like, write down one lie, like about how you view your body, or just like, even if you don't think it's a lie, just write down one thing about your body that you feel is negative. Yeah. Or like one lie where I said mine at the beginning where I was like, if I was skinnier, I'd be loved or chosen. I was like, write down what you think, like fill in the blank. And at the end, I was like, okay, so now everyone write down below that one truth about who the Lord is and how he views you to be as his creation. And then they after that all had to pair up and say those things out loud.
Dang, Brynn.
Here's the lie that I believe. Here's what I see to be true. And all that their friend could say back was yeah, that's true. Yeah. About the truth that they replaced it with. But a lot of our students were saying I've never said that, fill in the blank of what their statement was. Yeah. I've never said that out loud because I feel so embarrassed to say it.
Yeah.
And like fearful that if I voice out to my friend, they're going to be like, oh yeah, like you're right.
I wish you were taller.
Yeah. Like that kind of thing. But there was like, you literally saw like freedom happening in that moment of people naming that out loud and like seeing their friends sit with them and be like, yeah, like I felt that too. And like to go and walk that out together. And so I don't know, just encouragement, like there is freedom in this as we confess those things out to the Lord into our community. And it's not like too weird of a topic to talk about.
But for some reason
it's so familiar to all of us.
We actually all experience it.
Yeah.
Yes. That's good. All right. Well, again, I like we always say, this is just to start the conversation.
Yeah.
And so we would encourage you. Hopefully, some of these things that we said encourage you. Hopefully, you walk away being like, okay, yeah, so it's not just me. And our encouragement is that you take some of these things and maybe just try it. I love what you said. Like, hey, let's try 24 hours or let's try as long as we can. I'm not focusing on so much of that and change our perspective, blessing ourselves and seeking the approvals of others, but more being like, all right, Lord, let me walk in the confidence of the identity that you've already given me.
Yeah. So good. Well, we'll see you in a couple weeks on the next episode of the Well StudentCast.
Let's go.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Well StudentCast. As always, don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends about us. For more information about the Well Student Ministries, visit thewellcommunity.org/students.